I want to hear cannons. Downfield, pull up, ball to the 5, touchdown Tampa Bay. Mike Evans does it again. Fire the cannons, Bucs.
It's first and goal. That's picked off. That's picked off. And who else? Rondé Barber. And the Tampa Bay Buccaneers may ride to the Super Bowl with that one.
Third down, 18. Dropping Gannon, looking Gannon. Throws up with a head. Intercepted. 30. Derek Brooks 30. Brooks to the 25. 20. Derek Brooks all the way. There it is. The dagger's in. We're going to win the Super Bowl. And there the cannons go. Fire them. Keep on firing them. Keep on firing them.
Hello and welcome back, Bucs fans, to a brand new edition of the Cannon Fire Podcast. It's a big one today, the one we've waited all off season for. It is our 2025 season prediction show. And again, Evan, you said it last week, one of your favorite shows of the year. I'm excited to kick things off and officially welcome everybody to the regular season as we put our record predictions for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers out there for the world to hear, see, and potentially criticize. But we are here for all of it, and we appreciate you guys hanging out with us live on YouTube today. Evan, you excited?
Yeah, definitely. As you mentioned, this is probably my favorite show of the year. Just like, breaking it. I think a lot of people do, right? You like right when the schedule comes out, a lot of people look at it and say, okay, there's a win, there's a loss, there's a win, there's a loss. And we don't typically do that, right? We try and wait a little bit. It's things like injuries, which obviously the Buccaneers are dealing with a few of those right now. Things like trades, which obviously the Micah Parsons deal doesn't affect the Bucs in either way because they don't play the Cowboys or the Packers in the regular season. But hey, maybe they meet one of those teams in the playoffs, right? And maybe that impacts them in that way. So we try and wait as long as we can for the season prediction show. But yeah, we're here now, and I think this is now that we're doing this, it's a sign that regular season football is literally right around the corner. So I'm really excited to get into it.
We got a couple of early record predictions in the chat already. DJ Warren, Big Country 2988, Go Bucks 1911, Dave Bartleson, and MK, of course, can't forget Mikey Kelly. We appreciate you guys hanging out. We are going to bring those up at the end when we give out our total, everybody's record prediction. We'll do it all at the same time, and then we'll cover all of our bases, talk about all the different scenarios. But without further ado, let's just get right into this thing. So a week from this Sunday, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers will be playing a football game. They'll be on the road in Atlanta in an NFC South contest to start the season. That'll be September 7th at 1 p.m., taking on the Atlanta Falcons. I tell you what, Evan, this is one of those games where it's always interesting when week one you have a division opponent, but on top of that, I think that this is a game where it's a division game, and those can get hairy. Guys are going to be shaking off the ring rust here to start the season, but this is a game where you'd like to start punctual, I think is a way to put it. And you'd like to see some guys be effective here in the early goings. One of those guys I'd like to see effective in this early game is Haason Reddick. I'd like to see a Haason Reddick over the first two games of the. I'd like to see a Haason Reddick sack over the first two games of the season, if that makes sense. I'd like for him to get at least one. The Falcons seem like a good opportunity, though. Potentially going to be missing a couple of offensive linemen there, some starters, going to keep them shorthanded. I think that this is a matchup that ultimately I think the Bucs are going to win, but I think they're going to have to be on their P's and Q's week one.
Yeah, I don't think this is one where, the Bucs are definitely going to win this or they're definitely going to lose this. I think it's a coin flip, right? And I think when you look at the games that these two teams played last year, obviously the Falcons taking both, one, it should leave a sour taste in the Bucs' mouths, right? So I understand that last year's last year and this year's team is not last year's team and this and that, but that should still, make you motivated to go out and start the year off right against a team that swept you last year, especially when that team is probably the team you're going to be competing with for the NFC South title. Like, I don't see the Saints or Panthers really competing for the NFC South, championship. So, like, if you're going to lose the division, it's probably going to be to the Falcons. So I do think you're going to want to start the year off right. Not going to do, and this is for all these games, right? Like, we won't go into like a full-blown preview for them. But, quick shameless plug, we will be having, content throughout the week next week, Hard to believe we're saying next week already, but I'm talking about this Falcons matchup and sort of what to look for. So be on the lookout for that. But yeah, when you're looking at this, I think having a divisional opponent start off your year, you always want to start 1-0, right? You always want to start off on a good foot, and the Buccaneers have done that for the really, I believe 2020 was the last time they started off 0-1, excuse me. So every year they've started off 1-0. They've actually started off 2-0 every single season since that, and I think you want to start off on the right foot. Now, I don't think this game is going to be easy, like I said, and I don't think many people do. Like, I'm not expecting either team to blow the other team out of the water. That would be surprising. But I mean, I don't know what sort of format we want to give our, predictions in. Typically, we don't do scores, but we just do winner. But I do think the Bucs are going to be a motivated group. I do think they're going to come into this game hungry. And I do think they probably end up with a win here. So I will give the Buccaneers a win to start week one. This remain 1-0 every year in the Todd Bowles era. They have never started off 0-1 in the Todd Bowles era. So I think that trend continues this year.
I am also going to give them a win here, and very much like you had said, I don't think this is going to be an easy win for the Bucs. I truly think that Michael Penix at quarterback for the Falcons is going to surprise some people. I know most people expect him to be pretty decent based off of what we've seen last year, too. He gave you a couple of highlights here and there, but I'm excited to see him develop, truthfully, just as a Tampa guy. Like, I hate that he's within the NFC South because I feel bad rooting for him, but I think he's going to play well this year, and I think he could give the Bucs a problem or two if he really gets comfortable here in week one. But on top of starting out 1-0, the importance of an NFC South game here, too, is you don't see another division opponent until week 8. So if you start 0-1 in the NFC South and these other teams are potentially playing each other, by the time week 8 comes around and you're playing New Orleans for the first time and you're on the road, God forbid you start 0-2 in the South, you regardless of what your record is at that point, you got to feel like you're in a little bit of a hole with the division that the Bucs have won for the last 4 seasons. So I think starting on the right foot, especially within the division, is going to be huge there. And both of us going to be picking the Bucs to win that game. They have showed under Todd Bowles that they are usually prepared for week 1, and I think that'll be the case. Week 2, the Buccaneers are still on the road. This time they travel to Houston to take on the Texans. That game on Monday Night Football, September 15th at 7 p.m. So are they still doing like the doubleheader for Monday night?
Yeah.
So this will be
So actually, the Buccaneers are actually a part of 2 doubleheaders on Monday night. And both their Monday night games are part of doubleheaders.
Well, I'm glad for our sake they get the early window here, because that means our post-game show will be, maybe an hour or 2 earlier that night. But it should be an entertaining contest. I think the Bucs are going to be looking to answer back to what happened a couple of years ago in C.J. Stroud's rookie year. That was the last time these two teams met. And you remember C.J. Stroud led probably one of the more impressive fourth quarter comeback drives to win a game in his career. Put the Bucs away in pretty devastating fashion in that 2023 season. So these teams will see each other once again. That game in Houston once again. What are your thoughts on this one?
Houston's an interesting team because they have talent, but they have a lot of things that, or I should say, don't have a lot of things that you kind of need to be a contender, right? First thing, last year, their biggest issue was they could not protect CJ Stroud. The offensive line was a big issue. So what they do this year? They trade their best offensive lineman. They trade away Laramie Tunsil, which I didn't quite understand. So they're trying, I think, working out a patchwork offensive line here. So I'm curious to see, again, like you mentioned about Hassan Reddick a little bit earlier, an opportunity for him against the Falcons. I think there's an opportunity against the Texans too, because the Texans offensive line is not very good either. And I think that there's gonna be a chance for Hassan Reddick to potentially make some big plays, and Diaby to potentially make some big plays in these 2 games. But you are right. I mean, the Bucs is another time where the Bucs are kind of going to be looking for, some sort of retribution, revenge, whatever you want to say, because of what happened the last time they were in that stadium. And it was they took the lead late, and then CJ Stroud with one of like the best rookie starts like ever.
Yeah.
ends up beating the Bucs, and the defense was pretty well embarrassed. And by that point, I think the Bucs had dropped to like 3-5 or something like that. Like the season felt like it was like done, right? Like at that point, you thought like, yeah, this team is like cooked, but they were able to rally and come back. But yeah, I think especially with Atlanta, we in this scenario, we both had the Bucs starting off 1-0. So there's not as much pressure to like, avoid going 0-2, especially on prime time, which we know the Bucs have struggled in under Todd Bowles and under Baker Mayfield. I actually believe the Bucs have not won a regular season game in prime time with Baker Mayfield as their quarterback. They won the playoff game. That was the playoff game, though. In regular season, I do not believe the Bucs have won a prime time game with Baker Mayfield as their quarterback. So hopefully that changes this year. They have a couple opportunities to do it. This is just the first of a couple of primetime games that they have, and I actually do think they will. The Bucs have started off 2-0 every year in the Todd Bowles era, and for the last 4 years they've started off 2-0. And I think it's gonna be a sloppier game. I think it could come down to the wire. I think it might be an ugly win, but I think it could be a win nonetheless. So I'm gonna give the Buccaneers a win here and have them starting off 2-0 in the year.
I think something has to give between this game with the Texans and the upcoming game with the Jets, which we will talk about shortly. The point you just made, yeah, man, the Bucs have certainly stunk it up on primetime these last couple of seasons, and that's really what has me the most nervous about this matchup. Between that and the other thing I'm going to tell you about with Week 3, I want to believe that this is the primetime game the Bucs figure it out. I want to believe that the last several seasons of starting 2-0 under Todd Bowles is enough for me to believe that this team is going to get it together. So you know what? I'm going to pick the Bucs to win this game. I'm also going to pick them to start 2-0. But we'll dive right into Week 3 here. This is a big game. This is a big game for me personally as a uniform snob. Yeah, home opener. Buccaneers aren't going to be in Raymond James Stadium until Sunday, September 21st. It's a 1 p.m. kickoff, and it is the return of the 76 uniforms, I think is what they're calling them. The
so.
reverse creamsicle, if you will, the white on white, the beloved uniform, and maybe one of the cleanest alternates the Buccaneers introduced across the NFL this offseason.
Mm-hmm.
But they're going to be wearing that to celebrate 50 seasons, kicking things off in retro style, which is exactly why they're going to lose this game, Evan. Listen, I know we're looking at the Jets, we're looking at Justin Fields, and we're looking at this entire situation and expecting a win here. But just like Denver in Week 3 of 2024, there's going to be some game in the early going of the season that quite literally makes everyone collectively go, what the because we just get those games, and I don't know what it is, but I don't have enough faith yet. I've really come around on Todd Bowles. I think he had a very good offseason. Couple of the injuries that we have to deal with in the early goings, those are going to suck. But like Chris Godwin, we knew that was going to happen. Tristan Wirfs was a last-minute adjustment. We'll survive, I'm sure.
And hopefully, maybe by Week 3, you'll be getting Tristan Wirfs back.
Right.
So that's a big thing.
I think there's a lot to look forward to. And again, I think there's a lot to like about his approach to this previous offseason. I thought he looked at some clear criticisms against not only him as a coach, but his coaching staff and his roster. And they made the best moves that they could, in my opinion. So I like Todd Bowles, but I don't trust him all the time to win those games, whether it's him or the team looking lackadaisical, out there. It's just something's got to give. So if they're going to win on primetime against the Texans, they're going to lose in their pretty throwback uniforms, and they're going to carry on the tradition of losing in the creamsicles since they have brought them back. And that hurts me to say because I love these uniforms. Again, I think it is probably top 3 alternate uniform in the NFL right now among any team. It really is just beautiful. But I don't know, man. This game's gonna piss a lot of people off. So this, in my opinion, this will be their first loss of the season. I think 3-0 might be too good to ask for.
I do think there is because I believe they haven't started 3-0 since 2005. So I believe
No
that was the last
way.
time they have
Really?
a bunch of 2-0 starts, but they have that third game they have lost, especially. And also when I said, oh, they started 2-0 the last, whatever, 4 years or whatever. Well, they've also always lost that third game. So 2021, they started off 2-0, they lost week 3. 2022, they start 2-0, lose week 3. 2023, same thing. 2024, same thing. So I get the sentiment, and look, and there is, I agree with you there that it seems like there's 1 or 2 games a year, right, where the Buccaneers just probably shouldn't lose, right? Like you're in a position, and Denver, look, Denver ended up being a good team, right? Denver was actually a playoff team,
Yeah,
right?
they
So
played. I
in
mean,
it,
from that game on, they just kept getting better throughout the rest of
yeah,
the
like
season. Their defense came
in
together. Bo Nix came
yeah,
along.
in retrospect, it doesn't look that bad, right? Like the loss doesn't look that bad, but the expectations were okay. This is a Denver team that has some talent, but still finding their way, right? It's a rookie quarterback, this and that, and they came in and not just beat the Bucs, they pretty much dominated the
I mean,
Bucs. I mean,
they were down 3 scores before you knew it.
yeah, it was quick.
It was one of those things where we came away disappointed that they lost, but I think it was the fashion that they lost in because they just weren't prepared whatsoever. Whether they overlooked Denver or didn't expect the rookie quarterback to kind of carve him up the way that he did, I don't know what the miscommunication was, but the fact of the matter is we came away from that game and we're like, should have had him
Yeah,
ready to play,
yeah,
it was one of those
right
things.
after they went into Detroit and they won a game where
Right,
not many people expected them to, and
huge
yeah.
gut check moment on the season.
Mhm. Yeah. And look, and there could be some of that, right? Because prime time, like you mentioned, you finally get that win on prime time, right? You have really had some serious struggles on prime time on the road, nonetheless. You start off 2
Yeah.
and 0, it could be a letdown. And also you bring up the uniforms. And the reason Rhett brings up the uniforms is the Buccaneers have only won one time in the creamsicles, and that was the first time they ever
It
wore
was
them.
back
That
when
was
Rondé Barber was playing, dude.
Yeah, that
Oh
was
my
Josh Freeman's first career
I'm
start. Josh
telling
Freeman's first
you.
career start.
It's
Um,
16 years.
yeah,
It's
that was the only time that the Buccaneers have won in the creamsicles. But I'm here to tell you, those are not the creamsicles. Those are the white creamsicle versions, and in those, the Buccaneers will start undefeated in
Ooh.
those because I do believe they're going to find a way to win an even uglier game than the Texans game. This might be a Tony Dungy style game, I think, on whatever week 3, Sunday, September 21st against the Jets in the creamsicle uniforms, nonetheless. Right, reverse creamsicle, whatever you want to call them. I think the Buccaneers are going to find a way to win. I don't think it's going to be pretty at all, especially with, you never know, Tampa, late September, weather, might be a little wet, right? There might be some rain, some
Hey,
showers, maybe.
yeah, man, listen, as someone who has lived here my entire life, I can tell you that this year the rain that we are getting is much later in the season than it normally is. Next week, as we speak, this upcoming week, and headed into the Buccaneers Week 1 game, it is 5 or 6 straight days of different thunderstorms and showers here around the Bay Area. So it could get nasty, and that's a valid point you bring up. The field condition certainly is not any better when we get some rain down here.
Yeah, so I see a low scoring game. I don't think there's gonna be a ton of fireworks in the game, but I think the Bucks are the better team, and I think they're gonna find a way to do something they haven't done in 20 years. So I think they are gonna find a way to start 3-0 against the New York Jets and really be riding a pretty big high coming into a pretty big stretch here.
I think it's going to be interesting because like I said, something's got to give, right? If I wasn't
Yeah.
picking them, to lose this Jets game, I was probably going to pick them to lose Houston. It just feels like those two games.
You put a pretty compelling argument that they could lose one of those games.
All right, yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of things working against them in these games, but I'd love to see them win. So you've got them sitting at 3-0 right now. Like you said,
Yeah.
something they haven't been able to do in 20 years. I have the Bucs at 2-1 as we head into week 4. An opponent the Buccaneers are certainly used to at this point and have a lot of positive recent history with, but that is the reigning defending Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles. That game going to be a 1 p.m. kickoff in week 4, Raymond James Stadium. The Buccaneers normally leave the Eagles black and blue the last few times these teams met in Raymond James Stadium, but how do you feel about this matchup in particular now that they have Saquon Barkley and, again, reigning Super Bowl champions here?
Yeah, I mean, well, the thing is, they had Saquon Barkley last year in Tampa too, right? And it didn't really matter. I mean, Barkley had the one with the big 75-yard run or whatever, but
Yeah,
other
it
than
was
that,
the outlier because outside of that, he was
yeah,
averaging 2-3 yards a carry.
yeah, they were able to bottle him up pretty good. Look, I mean, the Bucs have handled the Philadelphia Eagles for as good as the Eagles have been lately, right? Like the Eagles have been to two of the last three Super Bowls. They won one of them, and they won that one in like convincing fashion. Like they destroyed the Chiefs. But for as
Yeah,
good as the Eagles have been,
been there, done that.
God, yeah, well, yeah, Bucks did it first, but um, for as good as the Eagles have been, they haven't seemed to figure out the Bucks, right? The only win that they have against the Bucks was Week 3 of 2023. Lately, other than that, the Bucks have knocked them out of the playoffs twice, in 2021 and 2020. Technically, that same 2023 season. The Bucks have beaten them. The last time the Eagles beat the Bucks in the regular season outside of that 2023 game was back in 2012. So the Bucks again have handled the Eagles, specifically also in Tampa as well. The Eagles have struggled. Eagles have really struggled there. Both wild card losses were in Tampa, as well as the past couple regular seasons have not been kind to Philly. So, but at the same time, they are the defending Super Bowl champions for a reason, and you can't just say, "Well, the Bucks always dominate the Eagles, so the Bucks are just going to win." That's not the case, right? It's a year-to-year thing, but I do think this really helps the Bucks. And also, the funny part is it always seems to be very early in the season that the Bucks play the Eagles. And a matter of fact, this is actually the same exact week that the Bucks are playing the Eagles as they did last year. So it's always an early trip to Tampa that sort of dooms the Eagles. And I do have the Bucks starting off 3-0. However, I do think the Eagles might be a little bit too much for them. You want to talk about that high, right? I think they're going to be feeling that high after a 3-0 start. And I could see them having a letdown against a team that's quite frankly one of the best in the NFL. Like there is no sugarcoating it. They won the Super Bowl for a reason. I think the Eagles finally do get some revenge here on the Bucks, kind of like the way like the Bucks got revenge on the Falcons. Like I think the Eagles might be a little sick of losing to the Bucks. And like you said, eventually I think something has to give in this matchup, and I think unfortunately the Eagles will hand the Bucks their first loss of the season. I had the Bucks at 3-1.
Let me ask you a question here. This is about personnel, the Buccaneers roster. We're at week 4 when the Bucks play the Eagles. In your prediction, do the Buccaneers have Tristan Wirfs at left tackle?
What week is this again?
4.
Yeah, I do. I don't. I'm 50-50 on Chris Godwin,
Yeah.
but I think Tristan Wirfs is going to come back. I could see him being back for that Jets game. I really could. I think there's a real chance that he's back in time for that Jets game. I don't think the Bucs are going to completely rush him. But I wouldn't be shocked if he returns, So yeah, I do expect him to be out there week 4. I think if it's not week 3, I think it's gonna be week 4.
This is going to be a tough contest, but I do have the Bucks winning here. We're at that point in the season still where they're still obviously figuring out their identity, but they are also still, I think, haven't fallen off the wagon yet. And I don't want to allude to like a midseason slump here on my prediction, but they have a lot of tough opponents here after Philly. I mean, this is arguably the toughest slate of the season leading up to the bye week. You've got Philly, then you go across the country to Seattle, then you've got San Francisco, the Lions, New Orleans. New Orleans is a team that, again, I think they just named Spencer Rattler their starting quarterback. Spencer Rattler's not that great at football, but the Saints are the Saints.
It is a divisional game on the road, yeah.
It is, and the Lions, I think the Lions are going to be an interesting team to watch in the NFC this year after losing both of their coordinators. I don't think many people expect them to be as good, but they are still loaded with talent. They still have Jahmyr Gibbs on that roster, and they still got a pretty damn good head coach. The Niners are interesting. They did pay Brock Purdy. We'll see who they have catching passes. But I mean, the Niners are a difficult matchup for the Bucs. They have been these last couple of times these teams have played. And we'll talk about the Seahawks here in a minute. But I do have the Buccaneers beating the Eagles here. So I have them advancing to a 3-1 start. Their only blemish on the season so far is the Jets. And then, Evan, you've got them dropping their first game of the season to the Eagles. At this point, we both have them at 3-1. Headed into week 5. Wouldn't you know it? For the second time in 3 weeks, they're back in the old 76er uniform. And this one's going to be really cool. This is a game that I have considered like buying a plane ticket for and going to try and see in person, just because I think this is one of those things that only happens every so often in the NFL, and it'd be really cool to see it in person. But the Buccaneers going to be wearing the old 76 uniform against the Seahawks, who will be wearing their own royal blue throwback uniform to celebrate the 50th season for both of these teams, who entered the NFL as expansion teams way back in 1976. That game, October 5th, 4:05 p.m. kickoff. How do you think the Seahawks are going to do with Sam Darnold this year? I think that's the biggest question coming into this matchup. Did they get better or worse as a football team losing Geno Smith for Sam Darnold?
I think it really depends on what you think of Sam Darnold. I think if you think that Sam Darnold was, look, man, yeah, he's a one-year wonder with the Vikings, and he's just going to go back to being, what he was. Or if you think he, sort of found, like, Baker Mayfield did, like, if you think he sort of found his mojo again, kind of, and you think this is for real, well, then, I think Seattle's going to be a lot better than some people think then, if they get, consistent quarterback play. Geno Smith was pretty good for them, right? I think, like, Geno Smith, like, Baker Mayfield has exceeded the Geno Smith thing for Seattle. But, like, when they signed Baker and they made him the starter, like, it was to follow in, like, the Geno Smith mold, kind of, right? High draft pick who was a starter, didn't work out, finally gets another shot and actually does well. That was, like, the purpose of, like, the Baker Mayfield thing, right? Like, people were like, yeah, if he turns out like Geno Smith, like, it's an all right signing. And obviously he's surpassed that. So we'll see if Darnold can do it again. I think that really depends on, what you think Seattle's expectations are. This could be a tough game because Seattle has some pretty good players. Jackson Smith-Njigba is one of the young wide receivers that I think could really break out this year. I think he's got a lot of talent. Obviously, they said goodbye to Tyler Lockett this offseason, so I think an even bigger role for JSN there.
I got Cooper Kupp, and I
mean,
know
and
he's
look,
old,
like,
but
he's a veteran. He's gonna know his way, or around, and he's still a solid player.
he is.
Um,
I mean, Matt Gay technically kicked the field goal, but many would argue that Cooper Kupp was the
yeah.
guy who.
Nobody remembers that he kicked the field. Nobody remembers the field goal though. Everybody remembers the play that led to the field goal.
Right.
Yeah. If it was like a 59-yarder, like, okay, then that's different. But yeah, everybody remembers the play to get down there. Cooper Kupp will be in, a lot of Bucs fans, nightmares for a while for just that singular play. But yeah, I mean, look, and Seattle,
R.I.P. Matt Stafford.
Yeah,
one of his greatest moments.
Yeah. Moment of silence. But Stafford's not dead. Well, some people claim that he
hashtag
is.
Stafford. Hashtag Stafford's been dead for weeks. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
read the papers.
Yep. Serious business.
Listen to a radio show.
Yeah. But this could be. I mean, obviously, look, Seattle's consistently one of the toughest places to play, and the Bucs don't go there often, right? The last time the Bucs were there was 2019. The Bucs ended up losing that game. But yeah, the Bucs don't go there often, and this could be a tough game. But I do think pound for pound, when you look at the teams on paper, and obviously, like you mentioned, elite uniform thing, right? And it's cool that both teams, like, they both came in the league at the same time. Like, that's cool that they're doing that. There had to be some sort of communication between the Seahawks and the Bucs to do that. It's cool that both of them agreed to do it. Yeah. More teams should do stuff like that when they play each other. But I think the Bucs are just better than the Seahawks. And maybe with the Seahawks home field advantage and stuff, maybe it will be more even. And I don't think this game's going to be a blowout. I think the Bucs are going to play a couple of ugly games in the early part of the season. I think this is one of them. But just like the Jets game, I think this is a game the Bucs find a way to win. And I'll say it's off the foot of a last-second Chase McLaughlin field goal. to give the Buccaneers the win and improve their record to 4-1 on the season. I think they're going to go into Seattle and beat the Seahawks.
I like it. I also see this being a scrappy matchup here. I got the Bucs taking this one. Again, it's a tough stretch coming up, and it's one of those things where you start to look at these records on paper leading into the bye week, and it feels like, I don't know, it feels like I'm being
with their next 2 games. Like, this is an important game. Like this is a really important game with the next 2 games being pretty difficult. Like, this is a game they kind of need to win.
Yeah, so both of us have them beating the Seahawks in a down and dirty matchup out west to advance to 4-1. The Buccaneers back at home hosting the San Francisco 49ers. 1 p.m. kickoff here in week 6.
Okay, so we talked about the Eagles really struggling against the Bucs, right? Well, that is the Bucs against the 49ers. So actually, the last time the Bucs beat the 49ers was in Tampa in 2018. That's when the 49ers were terrible. They got, I think, the 2nd overall pick of the draft. They picked Nick Bosa. Yeah, they were a bad football team. Todd Bowles, whether it's as defensive coordinator or whether it's as head coach, has never defeated Kyle Shanahan and the 49ers with the Buccaneers. Just has not done it. Lost to Kyle Shanahan and the 49ers in week 1 of 2019. That was his first game as defensive coordinator of the Bucs. And then ever since then, he has had 3 straight seasons. All 3 of his head coaching tenure as the Bucs head coach have all ended in San Francisco wins. And like, not many of the games have been close. Like, the Bucs lost last year on a last-second field goal, 23-20. If you remember, I think Jake Moody missed 3 other field goals in that game. So the score would have been much more lopsided had he made those. The Bucs lost 35-7 in Bowles' first year in San Francisco. Another year in San Francisco, they lost 27-14, and last year in Tampa lost 23-20. I don't see that changing, and I'm sort of the mindset, like, until I see the Bucs beat the 49ers, like, until I see a Todd Bowles led team beat a Kyle Shanahan led 49ers team, I'm still going to pick the 49ers. So I'm in a believe it when I see it mode with this matchup, and I think the 49ers are going to take this, drop the Bucs to 4-2.
I think what makes this interesting is that when we look at all of these recent matchups, I would argue this is the worst version of worst version of the Niners the Bucs have seen in a little while. 2019 week 1, they went to the Super Bowl.
Yeah. Well, maybe last year though. Like, they didn't make the playoffs last year. Like, they might make. I think they could make the playoffs this year.
But do you think they got better over the offseason? I mean, they paid Brock Purdy, they lost Deebo Samuel.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, obviously they're relying a lot on like Ricky Pearsall, Brandon Ayuk and stuff, and Ayuk's coming off an injury. They want George Kittle to bounce back, obviously.
Yeah.
It is tough. I just think they've also had a lot of bad luck last year, which I don't know if that's likely to happen again. Whether it's injuries or just stuff in game, like, I think they've had a lot of things not go their way last year. So like, I think they're going to be improved. So, but also, like, out of, all those teams that the Bucs had, you look at 2019, 2022, 2023, 2024, the 2025 team might be the best team, the best version of the Bucs that the 49ers have faced.
Oh, yeah.
Because obviously, like, the Bucs, didn't face them in 2020 or 2021 when the 2 best Bucs teams lately. They didn't face them. So it is going to be curious to see and I don't think this game's going to be a blowout either way. I just have, again, I am in a complete wait and see mode when it comes to this matchup for the Bucs, and they gotta beat them, for me to believe they actually can. And by this point, though, the silver lining is that Chris Godwin probably back. Like, it's week 6. I mean, I would assume he's probably definitely back by this point. So the Bucs should be, Tristan Wirfs and Chris Godwin should be back and fully good to go by this point.
I don't think they win this game either. I think the Buccaneers drop this one, go to 4-2, and I think these next 2 games here might piss some people off, but I just feel like there's going to have to be a period of this regular season where the Bucs have some disappointments, and I think this is it. I think they drop this game to the 49ers, and they drop week 7 on the road against the Lions. I don't think the Lions are better headed into this season than they were last year.
They
But
actually, I think, might have gotten a little tad worse.
yeah,
But they're still very good, though. Still very
they're
good.
still a decent team. There's something about the matchup that, again, feels like this is going to be that time of the year where the Bucs kind of have to stumble a bit and figure out their footing. Now, it helps that they are headed into the bye week, and it also helps that I have them winning that game against the Saints before the bye week. So we'll talk about that. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it. But yeah, I've got the Buccaneers dropping games to the Niners and the Lions. Their first sequential losses all season, and it'll give them a record of 4-3 headed into that game against New Orleans. What do you think about this matchup with Detroit here? Monday Night Football too. I forgot to add that prime time contest. That's why I feel so funky about it.
Yeah, another road prime time game. And again, like I said, I think it's another Monday night doubleheader on the Bucs of the first game. So, yeah, I mean, I think Detroit always presents a tough matchup. Last year's win in Detroit, I still say, is probably the best win in the Bulls era. To me, that was just so impressive. To be able to go in there, down the guys they were down, and beat arguably the best team in the NFC, and at the time, obviously, and the team that knocked you out of the playoffs the year before.
Yeah.
To go into that situation and win that game, I was so impressed with that game. But I do think again, and look, the Lions, I think are going to get worse just because I think you mentioned it earlier. They lost both their offensive and defensive coordinator. And on the surface, that's okay. It's only two guys. Well, it's also some of the staff as well. Like they're going to be taking some guys along with them. So there's a lot of coaching turnover there in Detroit. And you're facing them still in the first half of the season. Maybe they're trying to figure some things out here. I do think that ultimately Detroit is going to end up just edging out the Bucs a little bit here. I think maybe it's the Detroit offense that makes one more play than the Bucs can stop or whatever it may be. I think it's going to be a close game. These two teams play each other pretty well typically. And they've seen each other a lot. So they're pretty familiar with each other for, non-divisional opponents. They've seen each other a good bit. Unfortunately though, I do agree with you that the Bucs just, it's a little bit too much for the Bucs right now. Go back on the road on prime time. I had the Bucs win the first primetime game against the Texans. I can't have them starting the season 2-0 on prime time. So I had the Bucs dropping this one and going to 4-3 for, again, like you said, first time all season they will lose back-to-back games.
Well, an interesting note too as well. We're both at 4-3 right now in the predictions, but you have them losing their last 3 out of 4 games here. I've got them kind of weathering the storm, dropping that BS game against the Jets, and then obviously getting into this rough stretch here. But you've got them dropping it to Philly, winning against Seattle, and then dropping these 2 in a row. Curious to see your take for Week 8. On the road against the Saints, this graphic may know something that we don't know. It says 4:04 p.m. kickoff, which is really funny. It could just be a typo. But the Bucs going to be in the NFC South once again on the road against the Saints. That game going to be a 4 o'clock kickoff. The Saints are in rough shape, man. I think that I don't want to say that they are playing the long game with Arch Manning, but if you see a lot of what their fan base is saying on Twitter, that's what they hope is happening right now. They're just waiting for Arch Manning to come out and ultimately be your number one prospect because they can wait as long as they want to win games, apparently. I mean, I don't expect them to make some noise in the division. Now, apparently Drew Brees went on NFL Network and seems to think the NFC South is wide open, which is really funny. But I do think the Bucs are going to win this game. I'd like to believe that it's not as much of a hassle as I think it is going to be. I think after dropping 2 games in a row, they're going to be pissed off enough to show up and be prepared. Listen, I don't think I've ever done this, but I would not be shocked if, this is arguably the same Saints squad they put up 51 points on last year in the Superdome. This could be a big win for them, I would think. I don't think they're going to put up 51 points, but I think that they win this one in convincing fashion. And this is a team who, in my prediction, again, after dropping 2 in a row, I think they desperately need a win like this. And they are 2-0 in the NFC South headed into the bye week. So I think a convincing win against the Saints is a good way to to get everybody excited headed into that midway break for the season.
I agree with you. I do think there's an opportunity there for a pretty convincing win. Again, it's a divisional opponent. You know, you know
Yeah.
your divisional opponents well. It's on the road. There are reasons. Here's how I see this game playing out. And I do have the Buccaneers winning this game. I have the Buccaneers righting the ship a little bit right before the bye week. After losing 2 straight, I have them winning this game, going to 5-3 at the bye week, which is actually like one of their best records at a bye week in the
Yeah.
Bowles era.
I know, and that's why it feels deceiving, because I know this team can do it. They could arguably be better than 5-3 if
Yeah.
they do what a lot of people are hoping they do this season. But there's just something that's holding me back from buying in that little bit more. But I mean, we got a couple of 6-1s in the live chat, so I knew people weren't going to agree with us, but that we always kind of shoot from the hip here.
Yeah. So here's how I see this game going. I think this could be a classic. Maybe the Bucs start off a little like you're expecting them to go out of the gates, right? Maybe they start off a little sluggish. Maybe the first half, I don't know, maybe they're up 3 points or they're up a touchdown, and you're like, man, like they should not be that close. And then they end
Yeah.
up winning the game, and they end up winning the game by like 20.
That third quarter explosion, you get a pick
yeah.
6 or something. There's one
Something
play
like that. Yeah.
puts it up on the shelf.
Yeah, and I see this game sort of going like that. I think New Orleans is in for a pretty rough year. They have talent. I don't think they're completely like devoid of talent, but they lack a lot of talent in very critical spots, whether it's the offensive line, quarterback, the receiver room outside of Chris Olave is meh. On defense, they still have some questions there at edge rusher.
Mm-hmm.
I think their secondary is okay. It's got some question marks for sure. Their linebackers are still pretty good, but I think New Orleans isn't going to be able to really hang with the Bucs, especially like you mentioned, after the Bucs lose 2 straight games here in our scenario. Like, I think they're going to be pretty desperate, especially right before the bye week. You don't want to head to the bye week losing 3 straight games, being 4-4 like that. After starting off 4-1, that sort of changes your whole feeling, I think, of the season. So
Yeah.
that sort of wipes out that good start you had, and I think the Bucs know that. And I think, like I said, maybe it's a little bit sluggish to start, but I think the Bucs would finish strong, and they would end up taking this one from New Orleans and head into the bye week at 5-3.
Yeah, and to add on to your point, I mean, it's just important to stash wins, right? As you get later on into the season and the playoffs are closer, every win is going to count. But when it's wins against teams that you should be beating, it makes the losses hurt even less. Because, I mean, listen, they are at the bye week, and I'm sure that they're feeling good here, but they've got a pretty damn tough stretch coming out of the bye week as well. You kick things off with the Patriots at home, which, I mean, depending on Drake May by week 10, it'll be an interesting matchup. I'm very curious to see how his season goes. But after that, you got the Bills, perennial Super Bowl contender in the AFC, right? After that, you got the Rams, who are RIP Matt Stafford. Listen, I'm going to be honest with you about the Rams, man. People are very high on the Rams in the NFC. I'm not particularly one of them. I think they are, at best, like a 10-win team. I don't think Matt Stafford is going to be playing past week 7.
We'll get to that when that time comes, but I like the Rams roster a lot, but I am very nervous about the Stafford thing.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if he goes down, that changes a lot of things. Despite me really liking the roster, like can change a lot.
Man, I hate to say it because I'm a big fan of Stafford. I'm, again, not a big fan of what he did to us in that 2021 season, but
he's a Hall of Fame quarterback, in my opinion. He's a Hall of Fame.
One of the toughest to ever play the game. But here is what raises the question. A back injury is serious business. I mean, even if you're not an athlete, a back injury, if you potentially require an operation on your back, that will change your life. So from the point of view of an NFL quarterback, I don't even think for Matt Stafford, who, again, is one of the toughest SOBs in the game, probably the toughest guy in the NFL still at his older age. I don't even think it's about him going down. I think it's about him surviving the season. And I just, man, I don't want to sound so down. This isn't a Rams show, but we'll talk about that prediction here in a second. So both of us have the Buccaneers sitting at 5-3. Coming out of the bye week. Week 10, back at home, Raymond James Stadium, 1 p.m. kickoff, going to be playing the New England Patriots. under a new regime. Head coach Mike Vrabel coming in. And Vrabel's got some head coaching chops before. Honestly, he was the head coach of Tennessee, and I felt like that was the last time Tennessee was a relevant team outside of
Yeah,
getting the number one overall pick. I remember it kind of being a surprise when Tennessee decided to move on from Vrabel, and it's good to see him back coaching again in the NFL. He leads the team that he used to play for, Mike Vrabel, and now they've had two former players as two sequential head coaches because it was Gerard Mayo just a season ago as well. What do you think of this Patriots team? Do you think Vrabel's going to have them ready to play, or are they going to kind of be like awkwardly treading water here by week 10?
I like where the Patriots are heading. Because I'm a fan of Drake May. I think he's got a lot of tools that you need to be a successful quarterback in the NFL. I think he showed some flashes last year. There wasn't a lot of talent on that team last year, hence why they picked where they did. I think they picked fourth or something like that.
Yeah.
So they added an offensive lineman there. Like I said, I really like where they're heading, but it feels like they're probably a year away from really like doing some damage. However, look, a Mike Vrabel coach team, I think can be frisky. Like they're not just gonna lay down.
Yeah.
And I don't think they're gonna be getting beat by 25 points every week. So I could see this game being maybe a little bit closer than some Bucs fans would like. And I don't think the Patriots are going to be like one of the worst teams in the NFL. I could see them winning 6, 7, maybe 8 games. But I do think the Bucs are a better team. The Bucs are at home. Their Bucs are going to be well rested, coming off a bye week, and I think they'll probably get the job done. So I'm going to give the Bucs a win here, improve them to 6-3. Again, it might not be as pretty as some Bucs fans would like. It may be like, oh, well, if they can barely beat the Patriots, how are you going to beat these other teams? Like that might be the feeling of some Bucs fans after the game. But nonetheless, I think the Bucs are going to come out with a win here and improve to 6-3.
I agree. I think they are also going to come out with a win here and push their record to 6-3. You're going to feel really good about a 6-3 record. I know that again, most of the most optimistic people probably have them slated to be better here, but I think everybody in the fan base will take a 6-3 record over the first 9 games. This is where it gets a little bit interesting. Week 11 on the road in Buffalo, taking on the reigning MVP Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills. That's going to be a 1:00 kickoff. This is just this feels like it's going to be a duel. You know, it's always entertaining when these two teams get together. We've already seen a couple of classic games. The Buccaneers, last time they played the Bills, could not handle them. And I think that, again, this is going to be a duel between Baker Mayfield and Josh Allen. And as much as it hurts me to say, and as much as I think the Buccaneers have a good stretch of games ahead of them after this, I don't have them winning this game. On the road, Buffalo is a tough place to play. If I'm not mistaken, their final season in that stadium as well. So it's good.
Yeah, it's coming up. Yeah, it's either this year or next year.
It's going to be loud, man. It's always very loud whenever they play in Buffalo. So I've got them dropping this game and going to 6-4. This is where we start to get into the nitty gritty. By week 11, your playoff picture is shaping up, and right now the Bucs are sitting at 6-4. They need some wins here to make some positive progress.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think this could be a pretty high scoring game. I think this could be sort of that shootout type game where you see both teams in the high 20s, early 30s, maybe mid 30s. Maybe the loser has like 31 points. Josh Allen's the reigning MVP. He's a great player. The Bills, and obviously, look, they're one of them teams, right? It's like Super Bowl or bust, basically, right? Like that's their expectation.
Yeah.
So like the regular season, like for the Bills at this point, like regular season doesn't even matter as much. It's like, okay, what are you gonna do in the playoffs? Like that's what all eyes are on. Like, are you gonna be able to beat Kansas City? Like that's their question. And the Bills are still really darn good. I felt last year after that they lost to Kansas City, I felt that was their best chance. Now, whether you think they got hosed with the refs or whatever, they still lost. I felt like that was their best chance. Now, this time, a couple months later, I feel like they still have a shot. And I do think the Bucs are gonna lose this game. I think the Bills are gonna be a little bit too much. I think Josh Allen's gonna make one more play than Baker Mayfield will. And look, there's no shame in that because Josh Allen's Josh Allen, and he could go down as one of the greatest quarterbacks potentially ever, if he keeps up this pace. So I do think that the Bucs are going to show some fight. I don't think this is going to be a cakewalk for the Bills. And again, I think it's going to be a shootout. And I think there's going to be a lot of fireworks in this game. But ultimately, I'm going to give the edge to the Bills. November 16th. So there shouldn't, most likely wouldn't be snow. It's not 0% chance, right? But if you're looking at like weather conditions, basically, the Bucs are pretty fortunate this year, right? That like they don't play like in December. Like this is probably gonna be their coldest game.
Yeah.
Like, this is gonna be it. So I do think the home field advantage that the Bills have also helps them here, and I think they're gonna get the W over the Bucs and drop the Bucs as 6-4.
Week 12, the Bucs are on the road again, going all the way across the country to the West Coast, going to see our good friend Richard T, as they take on the Rams on Sunday Night Football in SoFi Stadium. Prime time once again. Only one other primetime game left this season for the Bucs, and it is a division contest. We'll get to that in a couple of weeks. But right now, Week 12, playing the Rams. Like I said, man, Matt Stafford died a couple weeks ago. So I don't know who's going to be under center for the Rams, but whoever it is going to have their hands full with this Buccaneers defensive line. I have the Bucs winning this game. Going back to what I said before, a lot of people are high on the Bills, and they have a talented roster. Jared Verse is a damn good player, and when Matt Stafford is on, back when he was alive, he's a damn good quarterback in the NFL. It's just one of those things where it's also
He's
been
just not breathing anymore.
Exactly,
that's
exactly, man. He's 6 feet under the ground, and I don't know if they're going to get much use out of him this year. But Sean McVay has also been a stubborn matchup for the Bucs, and kind of like we talked about with San Francisco, he's just one of those coaches that really seems to have Todd Bowles figured out at times. But I feel like the Buccaneers win this game. Now, I don't think it is necessarily convincing. I think this is maybe this is the ugliest primetime game that they play all year, to be honest with you. The Texans week 2 could be one thing, but this game against the Rams, it feels like a 15-12 final score kind of affair. I do have them winning this one, though, and extending their record to 7-4, bouncing back after that loss to Buffalo.
I will say Todd Bowles actually has defeated Sean McVay, though, right? Kyle Shanahan, he has not. The last time these two teams played, the Bucs did win. Tom Brady threw a touchdown to Kate Otten with 9 seconds left. I was at that game.
I was at that game too, actually.
There you go. Yeah. Nice. See? Maybe we should go to LA. But, hey, Richard, if we go, will we be able to
we'll just crash with you.
Yeah, it's fine. Just for a day or two. That's all.
You won't even know we're there.
Yeah, it's fine. But look, I mean, this is the part, and really, we could talk about that any week. It could happen. But week 6, week 7, week 8, there's going to be injuries, right? So, like, I think this whole conversation changes if Matthew Stafford's not the Rams quarterback come week 12. Like, I think that obviously matters. And look, and the Buccaneers may not have some guys available that you're thinking are going to be available. There's very rare times that a team is going to go through an entire season with all 22 starters that they have right now playing every single game. It's not going to happen. So there's going to be times where they're going to miss some guys. If Stafford plays, I think the Bucs are going to have a tough time winning. If Stafford doesn't play, I think the Bucs have a much better chance of winning, and I think that sort of plays into your kind of scenario of potentially an uglier game. I think if Stafford wouldn't play, the Rams' offensive line still is a weakness there. I think, like you mentioned, Jared Verse, really good player, going to be, I think, a really good pass rusher for a really long time. Their defense has a lot of talent still on it. They've done a great job of sort of rebuilding that defense, after Aaron Donald retired and everything, and after, they went to the Super Bowl against New England and they lost. Like, that defense was really good, and then they went to the Super Bowl and won. Like, that defense was good. They've done a good job of rebuilding that. I'm going to assume, because, again, I think it's hard to predict injuries, because you just don't know. So I have to assume that Stafford's going to play, and I think he's going to give the Bucs fits. He's going to come back from the dead.
You don't have to assume anything, buddy. He is no longer breathing. He is not playing for the Rams this year.
So I'm gonna give the Buccaneers a loss here. On primetime again, a West Coast game. You're this is 2 straight weeks on the road here. You're heading out, like I said, to the West Coast. That's tough. And I do think you're gonna be you'd be facing a Rams team, which I think still has a lot of talent. Obviously, they signed Devontae Adams. Devontae Adams, yeah, he's older, but he can still play. Puka Nakua is still there, and he's had injury concerns, which again leads into my thing of like, we don't know who's going to be available by this point in the season. But if all things are equal, I do think the Rams probably take this one from the Bucs. Drop the Bucs to, what do I have, 6-5 here. So I mean, look, an important stretch of games setting up for the Bucs, and important stretch of games for me because I have them at 6-5, but also just like in general because they have what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 of their last 5 games, or 4 of their last 6 games, I think, are against divisional opponents. So massive stakes here coming up for the Bucs.
Yeah, cannot be overstated. Just like you said, 4 of their last 5 games of the season in the NFC South. I have them in less dire straits than you do. 7-4. You have them at 6-5. Week 13, they are back at home. 1 p.m. kickoff against the Cardinals. Now, remember the last time they played the Cardinals at home, 1 p.m. kickoff? It was 2019, I think. That was...
I was at that game.
Yeah, that was Vernon Hargrave's last game as a Buck. I was also at that game.
Yeah.
That was a great time, actually. That was a really fun game to be at in person. But Week 13, I think the Bucs can handle Arizona. I think this is interesting to note. After Week 12, this is where your season predictions are going to get really murky because one of the things you already brought up, the presence of injuries, you don't know what key players are going to be active, just how healthy those guys may or may not be at this point of the year. But I do think the Buccaneers can handle the Cardinals team. Even if they were facing them Week 1 or Week 2, I think they can handle Kyler Murray and the Arizona Cardinals. So I have the Buccaneers winning this one, and in my prediction, they advance to 8-4, which feels like, again, a very, very solid record at this state in the game.
Also really quick, that Rams game, Baker Mayfield revenge game, perhaps.
Yeah, there you go.
So first time playing the Rams since he left, but we're gonna have an Hassan Reddick revenge game, right? Hassan Reddick is actually playing this year. He's
all of
with
his
the
teams.
Bucs. He is playing every single team he's played for. He was drafted by the Cardinals. He signed with the Panthers. He signed with the Eagles, and then he got traded or signed with the Jets. All 4 of his teams he is playing this year. So full circle for Hassan Reddick. But like Richard T mentioned in the chat there, Simeon Rice will be inducted into the Bucs Ring of Honor during this game, which is fitting because Simeon Rice also played for the Arizona Cardinals, so makes sense as to why this would be the game that he would be put in. Well earned for sure. And there's some people out there that think the Cardinals are like a sneaky good team, and I don't think the Cardinals are bad. But they seem painfully average to me. Like I don't see, and I also I don't hate Kyler as much as some other people do. Like there's some people that think he's just not a good quarterback. I think he's fine. Okay, well, I get why, right? Like I understand it, but I like Marvin Harrison Jr. I think he could be in for a pretty big year. Obviously he had a slower rookie year. I know Malik Neighbors really took the headline. Brian Thomas Jr. took headlines as rookie wide receivers. I think we're forgetting how good of a prospect Marvin Harrison Jr. was.
Oh yeah, dude.
Trey McBride might end up being like at the end of the year, like considered like the best tight end in football, like potentially. He's that good. And they have some talent, but I don't know. I don't love Jonathan Gann as a coach. They just seem painfully average to me. And this is a West Coast team that's gonna be playing the Bucs on the East Coast. I think the Bucs are gonna take this game. I think they're gonna bounce back from 2 straight losses yet again, and improve their record to 7-5.
The Arizona Cardinals radiate 2018 Bucs energy to me. Again, like you said, painfully average, where they have some really good talent in some areas of need, but for the most part, like you feel very about the head coach. You could argue most people feel very about the quarterback situation. I can understand why people like Kyler. I just think that enough time has gone by where like it's just average. He's just pedestrian. He's a little flashy every now and again, and he's got that one really cool Hail Mary play that he's going to hang on to forever. That's really, really cool. But I don't know. I think the Bucs can win here. So I've got them at 8-4. You've got them at 7-5. Another win under the belt for Todd Bowles and the Bucs. Week 14, they are at home taking on the New Orleans Saints once again. This is going to be a 1 p.m. kickoff, and the first of 3 straight NFC South contests. I do think the Bucs can win this game. I don't want to say it becomes concerning, but like it starts to become almost like this unspoken pressure to keep the streak alive because the Buccaneers have owned New Orleans. They have swept New Orleans for the last couple of years now, which is a great feeling. How much longer can they keep doing that, Evan? is kind of the question. You know, regardless of how bad these teams are year to year, there's always teams around the NFL who just kind of steal wins. And I feel like there's no other team in the NFL more than the New Orleans Saints, whether they're bad or good, that steals wins. So this could be a hairy game for the Bucs, but I do ultimately have them winning here and putting themselves in a very impressive 9-4 record. What do you think with this Week 14 game?
So the Bucs have swept the Saints 2 out of the last 3 years. They swept them in 2022 and they swept them last year. The year before that, they lost a game in Tampa, 23-13.
On my birthday.
Yep.
I'll never forget.
Were you at that game?
I was, dude. And to be totally transparent, I don't know if I've ever admitted this on the air because
I think you have because I think I know it's coming.
I think I have as well. I've given a lot of people a lot of crap on the internet for leaving games early. It was my birthday. It was the third quarter, and we were down 20 points running like halfback tosses.
That's right. They were down 20. They were down 20-0, weren't they?
In the third quarter, and Canales was just running some BS on the offensive side of the ball, and I had seen enough. So I had better things to do on my birthday, and that is the one and only Buccaneers game that I have ever left early in my entire life.
Oh. No, at least it wasn't a playoff game.
That is true. At least it wasn't a playoff game. And potentially at the time, what people thought was going to be Tom Brady's last game. At least I wasn't that guy.
Yeah. Not that guy. Some people are, but
Some people.
So the thing is, the Bucs have actually, even like dating back to like 2021, when like the Bucs, they've done pretty well in New Orleans. The Saints have done pretty well in Tampa. So it's sort of been this like, like the Saints swept the Bucs in 2021. So the Saints took both. The Bucs swept the Saints in 2022. The one in Tampa was the Bucs won. That was the Rachaad White second touchdown there on Monday Night Football. So the Bucs almost lost that one.
I was also at that.
New Orleans.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I was also at that game. And one of the most frustrating.
It feels like
one of the most frustrating games I've ever been to and watched in my entire life. 90% of that game was just watching it like this.
Yeah. That was like that whole season though. So
yeah, man.
But I mean, the Saints have really done pretty well against the Bucs in Tampa, much better, and they've also like actually played them like even in the Saints losses to the Bucs in Tampa, they've played them much closer in Tampa than they have in New Orleans. I mean, prime example, 2023, the Bucs went to New Orleans and won 26-9. Then the Saints beat them in Tampa, right? The Bucs go into New Orleans last year and put up 51 points, win 51-27. Well, the Bucs beat them 27-19 in the final week of this past season, but the Bucs were, I think, were they down or were they they were like up like very little at halftime of that game. So even when the Saints lose to the Buccaneers in Tampa, it's close. And we look at that 2022 season. Like I said, the Bucs beat them by 1 point. The Bucs beat them by 10 points. The first matchup in New Orleans. It just seems like the Saints play better in Tampa. However, this is are we in December by this point? Yeah, December 7th. This is December football, and this is when contenders gotta win these games. You can't expect to contend for a division title, a seeding, scenario, whatever it may be. If you want to say that you're a big guy in the NFC, you can't be losing games like this. Not at home, right? New Orleans by this point, I think, is gonna be firmly on the like, okay, this season's a wash. Like, let's just let's just wrap it up. And I don't think the Bucs are going to crush them because history has shown the Saints play the Bucs tougher in Tampa, and so I'll stick with that. The Saints do play the Bucs tougher, but I still think the Buccaneers are going to win this game and improve to 8-5 on the year.
All right, I've got them winning this game, and again extending their record to 9-4. Headed into Week 15, another NFC South matchup. This is the second time the Buccaneers will play the Falcons, and it has been pretty much a full season since the last time they saw them, all the way back in Week 1. Going to be a very different-looking Falcons team, and could be a
This is Thursday Night Football, right?
This is Thursday Night Football, so it's going to be a short week. This could be a dire situation for both teams here, depending on what the NFC South looks like. I'm going to be honest with you. I got the Buccaneers dropping this one. I think they split the series with Atlanta. And this one just has the makings of being that loss. It sucks that it comes at such a critical time for Tampa Bay. And luckily, I do think that they have, a couple of wins under their belt here to wrap up the season. But I just think that they are going to drop this one. And at this point, too, it's important to mention that, like, with the 2 division games they have left outside of this, this is the first NFC South game I'm picking them to lose all year. So, like, it might come as a little bit of a shock. Like, it sucks that they're losing at this time because they really would need a win. Honestly, I think that, well, I don't know. You still got 2 games against the Panthers. I think that if you can get the head-to-head here and sweep the Falcons, that might put them away.
I was actually, that was going to be a point I brought up. I was going to say, if you won this game, it's over.
Yeah, that's what I want to believe, but I think that, I don't know. I think the flaws are going to show here on Week 15. It feels like the Falcons are going to steal one here. So I've got the Buccaneers losing this one and dropping their record to 9-5. At this point, they are 2-1 in the NFC South.
Okay, there's 0 chance they win this game. They are not winning this game. Not only are they playing the Falcons on prime time, which hasn't boded well for them, right? Thursday Night Football, which they got embarrassed in 2014. They lost. They blew a game last year on Thursday Night Football against Atlanta. They lost 2016 they lost. I remember I was at that game, Thursday Night Football against Atlanta. They don't beat Atlanta on Thursday Night Football. To top that off, they're also, I said that, they're not going to lose wearing the reverse creamsicles. Well, they're wearing the creamsicles this time.
Yeah,
so
they are.
Those.
They are.
So
they're wearing the regular creamsicles. How could I have forgotten?
They're not going to win that game. they're
oh my
not
God,
going to win
this is a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, no, primetime game where they're wearing the creamsicle jerseys, there's 0% chance they are winning this game.
All right, well,
yeah. So I have the Falcons taking this one as well. The Bucs are going to split with the Falcons. Bucs go to 8-6, and the Bucs I think will have a shot. I said, I think if the Bucs would beat the Falcons there and sweep them, be 4-0 in the division to that point. I do think that the division would be like wrap. I think it'd be over. But unfortunately, I think the Bucs will keep the Falcons' hopes alive just a little bit longer, and I think the Bucs are going to drop this one.
I do agree that I think the Bucs are going to drop this one. You got the Panthers twice in the next 3 weeks. Here in Week 16, the Bucs are on the road taking on the Panthers for the first time. That's going to be a 1 p.m. kickoff, December 21st. And I do think the Bucs are going to win this game, but there's an interesting note about this thing with the Panthers, and it's probably going to piss a lot of people off once we ultimately get around to it. But let's knock out Week 16, 17, and 18. These predictions really quickly. I've got them winning here against the Panthers. Really quickly, what are your thoughts on this game against Carolina?
Yeah, I mean, look, you're going to want to bounce back, right? So it's on the road.
Late in the season.
Yeah. And also with that Falcons game, the Bucs are going to be on a short week as well, right? So now that they played Thursday, you're going to have the 10-day break, come back against the Panthers, who I still like. I think the Panthers are taking the right steps, but it feels like maybe still another year before you're like, oh, they might be a legit threat. So I do think the Bucs are going to take this game as well, improve to 9-6 on the season for me. So I do have the Bucs winning that game.
I've got them at 10-5 after their win against the Panthers here. Taking on the Dolphins, their final road game of the season. I do have them winning this game as well, extending their record to 11-5. I think Miami is just going to be a bad team this year. I feel like that they are in a very fragile state where just one little thing could kind of start the domino effect that ruins their season. They literally, I think just this morning or this week, had a coach end up in jail for some domestic stuff, and that has nothing to do with the team.
It wouldn't be the first time they had an assistant coach go AWOL.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
We've seen crazier.
It seems like the writing might be on the wall for Miami because they've been in this situation before, and I don't know, man. It just feels like things are starting to become a little bit dysfunctional down there with McDaniel and his staff, and by week 17. They're either going to know if they are playing for the postseason or just trying to get some good reps on film by here. But I think the Bucs are plenty fit to win this game here, week 17, and they will extend their record to 11-5.
It's a weird placement for this game, late in the year.
It is, yeah.
Second to last game, you're playing an AFC team. Like, it's a little strange. Feels out of place. But I agree. I don't think the Dolphins are going to be like top 3, top 5 in the NFL draft bad, but I think they're going to be in the top 10.
Yeah.
So I do think by the end, we don't know. We talk about injuries. Who knows if Tua is going to be playing by that point? It seems like it's like a ticking time bomb with him every year. So we have no idea what that's going to be like. Tyreek Hill. Honestly, I was surprised he wasn't moved in the offseason. I was a little bit surprised by that. Yeah.
Felt like a slow burn. Hey, he could be in Dallas by next week, apparently.
Maybe. Hey, they'll just trade 2 first-round picks and Kenny Clark to Miami. But, honestly, like, legit idea here. I don't know. Is Tyreek Hill a potential trade deadline candidate for somebody? Like, does he even play this game in Miami? Like, who knows? So we'll have to wait and see if things get really bad between him and the team. He's a guy who can, sort of shake things up a little bit. Go ahead.
He's going back to the Chiefs.
Maybe it wouldn't stun me, but I don't know. We'll see.
I think he'll be back in KC one way or another.
So I think the Bucs are gonna win this game. To put it, put a cap on that. I think the Bucs are going to win this game, win their 10th game of the season, secure a second straight 10-win season. I have them being 10-6 right now, and I do think they're going to win this game.
I have the Buccaneers headed into Week 18 at 11-5. Evan, you have them at 10-6. Week 18, final game of the season, NFC South contest against the Carolina Panthers. This game will be in Tampa. This is where I piss everybody off. Bucs are going to lose this game. I don't know what it is about Carolina, but it feels like these last 2 years they have been like building up towards a win that they're gonna get against Tampa, and I
got close last year in Carolina.
They got close. Should have won. They got close the year before. Yeah. I think that with Dave Canales and Bryce Young really starting to come around, I'm not saying that the Panthers are going to cause problems in the division, but I think that truthfully, if we're just being honest, I mean, we had Desmond Johnson back when we were on the Believe Network. He was on the show a couple times last year, and I think the second half of the season, really the last 7 weeks of the year last year for Carolina, Bryce Young played pretty well.
Yeah.
And really I know that they are in a weird spot because they just shipped off all of their wide receivers. At least, Adam Thielen and Hunter Renfrow are both gone. So curious to see what ends up happening there, if Xavier Legette can become a guy that they depend on a little bit more. But I just have this really weird feeling. And I do think that 4-2 in the NFC South is going to be enough for the Bucs to win the division. I truthfully do. I don't think the Falcons are going to have a better record in the South than that. And I think it's going to be interesting to see what it comes down to. But I do think the Bucs are going to win the division. I just think it's going to be with an 11-6 record. And, I don't know. There's a weird feeling about this Panthers team. They have been getting stronger as the season goes on these last couple of seasons. I'm curious to see what they look like this year. Injuries are obviously going to be a thing too. And again, I think that Week 18 predictions before Week 1 even starts is murky enough as it is. So if they don't lose here, they could lose any of their other games. But ultimately, I think the Buccaneers finish 11-6.
So I think people are gonna love this. I think the Bucs are also going to lose this game, but but it's not for the reason. Hang on. It'll be because I think they're going to be in a position where they're going to sit some of their starters.
Okay.
Where they sort of know that who they're going to be playing or where they're seated, and it's going to be a lot like the 2022 season when they went into Atlanta and actually had the lead on the Falcons at halftime and ended up pulling their starters, which I don't think they should have
That was a
done
bunch
because
of crap.
it did two things.
Bunch of crap.
It did two things. One, it put them from they were 8-8, so they would have been 9-8, had a winning season. So it put you to have a losing season, and then also it gave Tom Brady, since he started the game, it gave him his first ever loss against the Falcons. I don't like it, but I do think they might sit some of their starters. I think by this point, I think the division will be wrapped up. I think they're gonna know where they are, have an idea of who they might be playing, and I think they're not gonna they're gonna know that they're gonna be playing the next week, and I don't think they want to necessarily risk an injury to some guys. So maybe the starters play a half, right? But I don't know if they finish this game. And I think the Panthers, on the other hand, gonna be playing for some pride. And like you said, they've been getting close to a victory over the Bucs. And last year in Carolina, they probably should have won that game. The Bucs sort of really got lucky with Chuba Hubbard fumbling that ball, or else I think the Panthers do win that game. And who knows what happens last year, because the Bucs might not make the playoffs if they don't win that game. So I do have the Buccaneers losing this one, dropping to 10-7, which, I mean, for the second straight season, I think the Falcons will put up a fight for the NFC South. I think the Bucs are probably still going to win the NFC South. The Falcons, I could see them in that 9-8. I could see the Falcons even being 10-7. I could just see the Bucs winning a tiebreaker with the Falcons, to edge them for the NFC South crown for, I believe, a team record 5th straight year. They have never won the NFC South 5 straight seasons. So that'll be definitely, and I believe also this will be their 6th straight season in the playoffs. I don't think they've ever done that as a franchise either.
I can't believe you. 10-7.
10-7. How is that crazy? How's that crazy?
It's not crazy. I really did think that this whole time.
If the Bucs play their starters, I think they're going to beat the Panthers. I just don't know if they're going to play all their starters.
I understand that. So 10-7 with an asterisk, then, right? I
Sure,
guess you could see it. All right. I felt like, man, this whole time we were on pace. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, all right, we're both thinking 11-6.
And I threw a curveball.
We got a lot of people that disagree with us in the live chat, and we appreciate you guys hanging out with us. Drop your record predictions below. Give us a little bit of insight. I want to know what you think about this Buccaneers team. I had one person in here, David Bartleson, said, respectfully, I think you guys are overthinking it. This team was better than 11-6 last year, talent-wise, and they are better. But unfortunately, David, in the NFL, you are what your record says you are. And I think that argument could be made a little bit more for like college football, but in the NFL, man, the Buccaneers have never won more than 10 games under head coach Todd Bowles, and I would love to see it. Trust me, I just picked them to go 11-6, but it's hard for me to believe that a team that was 10-7 last year, first round exit, is going to win like 14 games, 13 games. I would love to see it. I think talent-wise, they could do it. But I still think that there are some inconsistencies with this Bucs team year in and year out, whether it's the coaching staff, whether it's injuries. There's some things that you can't account for. But I don't think that they are going to be a 13-14 win team. I would argue that their ceiling is 12-5, which many people would be very happy with. But my official prediction is 11-6. I do think that they have improved off of last year. I think, again, I said at the start of the show, I commend Todd Bowles for the offseason that he had. I think he made a lot of necessary adjustments. He went and he got the right guys. I feel good. I feel much better about this pass rush with Hassan Reddick available. You couldn't foresee the injury to David Walker. That's fine. You still have contributors in that position. And if Reddick pays off, that's huge. I think that changes everything for this Buccaneers pass rush. Baker Mayfield's going to ball, man. Emeka Ibuka's going to ball, man. Bucky Irving's going to continue to ball. Josh Grizzard just needs to, kind of hone in and figure out how to use these guys, but I'm convinced that he is going to do an okay job. But what if he doesn't, right? Like, what if Josh Grizzard is not a good offensive coordinator and the Buccaneers are struggling to reach 8 wins? Like, I feel like there's just some uncertainty there that if things go wrong, it could prevent them from even getting 11 wins. So I think that, in my opinion, 11 wins feels right. They are a little bit improved, but there's still some question marks here. But I think 11 wins is more than reasonable. 10-7, Evan.
I think even with 10-7, I think when you watch them, you'll see that they're better than they were last year, because I do think they're better. I think even with me having the same exact record as the year before, I think you'll watch them and feel better about them winning a playoff game, maybe multiple playoff games than you did last year.
Agreed.
So like I said, we'll have to wait and see. Predictions, these are mostly for fun, right? Like, once we get week to week and start doing our game preview shows and we give out predictions, then and I'll tell you right now, what me and Rhett just picked, we are probably not going to stick with. Like, it's not like, well, back on August 29th, I know we're in week 10 against the Patriots. Back on August 29th, I picked them to win. So I know Baker Mayfield and half the offense is out, but the Bucs are going to win. Like, no, like we'll adjust as the season goes on, as we see things. But for now, I think that's that's what the deal is. And we also do towards the end, we'll do three sort of things here. Sometimes we do like a breakout guy, but we decided not to do that right now. We'll do offensive MVP. We will do defensive MVP, and we also do your rookie of the year. And the reason I threw in rookie of the year is because I think the Bucs actually have more than because a lot of times rookie of the year, it's like kind of obvious. You're like, oh, well, it's the guy who's going to play the most, like, duh, you know. And I also don't know if many people expected Bucky Irving to be like rookie of the year last year. I'm not 100% sure. But I do think the Bucs have like multiple candidates that you could make an argument for rookie of the year this year, due to like hype and what they show in the preseason. So I'm curious to see that. But without further ado, Rhett, I want to toss it to you first for the offensive. You give your offensive, I'll give mine, I'll give my defensive, you give yours, and so on and so on.
All right, sounds good. Really quickly, just checking in on the live chat here. Our buddy Reckon says, I don't think we lose more than 4 games this year.
Oof.
He says he's going to go with the Bucs 13-4, and I do think that we lose game 1. Wayne says, I think the Bucs will sweep the division and go 12-5 if the defensive front stays healthy. David Bartleson followed up and said, last year they were 10-7. This year they will win 13+ if relatively healthy. Listen, I don't blame people for being optimistic about this Buccaneers team. That's the thing, too, is like you look at the attention that they're getting with the national media. Todd Bowles addressed it this week. We didn't really pay any attention to them when they were picking us to be last. We're not going to pay any attention when they pick us to be first, but people are very, very high on this Buccaneers team. And listen, they have good reason to do so. It's just, I've been watching this Bucs team since I was 7 years old. And
you've seen the hype before.
Yeah, we've been in this situation before.
Dude, I thought in 2014, like they were gonna win like freaking 12 games. They won 2. I mean, go on. And I'm not saying that's gonna happen. That is not gonna happen to this team.
Of all the years you could have picked, too, man, 2014 is
20. I thought they were loaded.
Josh McCown, how can they lose, man?
They signed Josh McCown, Altron Werner, Michael Johnson, Clint McDonald, Brandon Myers, Mike Jenkins. They drafted Mike Evans, Austin Seferian-Jenkins, Charles Sims. You kidding me?
What year did they sign Mankins? Was it 2015?
They traded for Mankins. I think they traded for Mankins before that in the preseason that year.
Yeah. I remember being excited because my stepdad was a Patriots fan, and Logan Mankins was that dude on the Pats for a little while at that point.
Oh yeah,
and
he was a good player for the Bucs too.
Yeah, absolutely. He was 100% serviceable. I almost said mediocre. That was not the correct word. He was more than serviceable in his time as a Buccaneer. But let me give you my offensive MVP for this season. This one, we can go a lot of different directions here, but I think it's just going to come down to ultimately your take on MVP. Is it going to be the most star-studded, flashy stats guy, or is it going to be the dude that steps up and helps this team when other people aren't able to do it? Man. A lot of people are concerned about a sophomore slump, but I'm not. I'm going to go Bucky Irving. I know that we are getting very excited about Emeka Egbuka, and I know that he's going to have an amplified role with the absence of Chris Godwin and some of the other potential injuries in that wide receiver room. And I think he's going to have a grand rookie season. But I think Bucky Irving and just his ability to run the football and create space and create opportunities, he's going to bail this offense out a time or two this upcoming season. I think that there is going to be a game where you almost have no choice but to just lean on Bucky and let him continue to eat these guys up. Do I think he is a do-it-all back? No. But again, I think that there's going to be a couple of situations where whether the pass rush is just getting the best of Baker and that offensive line, maybe it's early in the season when you got Charlie Heck out there and you're missing Tristan Wirfs and you don't have as much time to throw. I just feel like Bucky Irving's going to come up, and I do think that the pressure of a sophomore slump is going to keep him impressive this year. And as long as he stays healthy, I think he'll be one of the more exciting players to watch on the offensive side of the ball. So I'm taking my man Bucky Irving.
Okay. I am going to go with the man who will break the record for most consecutive 1,000-yard receiving seasons. That is Mike Evans. I'll go him as my offensive MVP. I think that's going to be partially why, because I think there's going to be a big deal made when he breaks that record. It's 12 seasons right now. He tied Jerry Rice last year in dramatic fashion. It was electric, right? And I know a lot of people, they were like, oh, it's kind of cheap or whatever. I would say it was semi-cheap if he didn't miss like 4 or 5 games.
Yeah, come on.
Because he would have gotten it easily if he hadn't missed that time. And also, we've seen Mike Evans occasionally, will miss a game or two, right? It's not like he's been this Iron Man. He gets banged up from time to time. He plays a very physical style of football. So, he probably won't play in all 17 games, but I think even if he doesn't, as long as he doesn't miss like 6, 7 games, I think he'll still be in line to get that 12 seasons and get that record. So for that, Mike Evans is going to be my MVP. For defensive MVP, I am going to say bouncing back with a big year is Antoine Winfield Jr. I just think he's too good. I think injuries, I mean, literally got hurt week 1. And I think at that point, it just kind of derailed everything. And then he came back and just wasn't really the same. And I think injuries really derailed his entire season. And there's no way this dude just like forgets how to play football. So I think he's just, like I said, he's just too good. And his 2023 was too good. And I think, will it be on that level? I don't know, because I think that was like next level stuff. But I think he is going to be one of, if not the best player on that Buccaneers defense and make plays consistently week in and week out. So I'll go with Antoine Winfield Jr. there. Who is your defensive MVP?
My defensive MVP is going to be along the defensive line. And a lot of people might think it's an edge rusher, but it is not. It is probably my favorite player on that defensive line, man. Big Kalijah Kancey. I need him to stay healthy because he put a quote out there a couple of months ago that said he intends to lead the NFL in sacks. Not just the Bucs, the NFL from an interior defensive line position. And I would argue that it hasn't been done before, but it has been done before. I mean, you've seen generational talent from the interior defensive line. Guys like Warren Sapp, guys like Aaron Donald have certainly set a pace like that in the past. So can he do it? Maybe. But I think if you give me a healthy Kalijah Kancey for 12 plus, 13 plus games, I still think he can lead the team in sacks. So I think that when we talk about this consistent pressure from the defensive line, whether they're sending extra guys at the quarterback or they're just trying to get pressure with 4 down linemen, I think as long as he's available, he has the ability to make plays for this defense. So I'm going to go Kalijah Kancey, man. Going out on a limb a little bit here. Hopefully this doesn't end up being like an OJ. Hopefully it's not like an OJ Howard type pick, because you remember 3 years in a row or something, he was my breakout player. But I've got a lot of faith and I have a lot of stock in Kalijah Kancey. I want him to stay healthy.
Yeah, I mean, also Kancey, a little fun fact. Well, fun fact, not so fun fact, maybe. He's playing in his first ever week 1 game next Sunday. So he was hurt against Minnesota and he was hurt against was that Washington. So has not played in a week 1 opener. So that's interesting. But yeah, I that would be great. I mean, I think the potential for him, right? His ceiling is very high. And I think leading the NFL in sacks is lofty, but hey, if you don't set lofty goals, you'll never reach them. So why not? But I think if you can just focus on getting half of that, so let's say the leader has 20, if you can get 10, I'd be pretty happy. But we'll have to wait and see. I do think he could be in for a pretty big year. But moving on to Rookie of the Year, and again, like I said, I sort of wanted to bring this up because I think there's more than one, and you could go with a bunch of guys, but Emeka Ibuka, Jacob Parrish has received a lot of love in the preseason. Benjamin Morrison's a guy who I think, man, there's so many freaking online Bucks fans that think that by week like 7, Benjamin Morrison's going to overtake Jamel Dean as the team's starting corner. Tej Johnson, a 6th-round pick, but he has become a fan favorite very quickly in Tampa with his just electricity, basically, and just, charisma and stuff. Obviously, unfortunately, a guy like David Walker couldn't be a part of it, or else I think he'd be a little sneaky candidate too. But I am gonna go Emeka Ibuka, I think, just because I think the Chris Godwin thing helps his chances. I think Ibuka is in the best position among the rookies to make an impact. Godwin's going to miss the first couple games. McMillan's going to be out probably like half the year. I think he's in the best position to consistently week in and week out make an impact. So I'll go Emeka Ibuka. I know it's the safe pick. It's not the splashy, oh my God, look at this pick, but I do think it's going to be Emeka Ibuka.
No, I like it. I think people have every reason in the world to be excited about Ibuka and his potential production this season. He is in a position that when the pick was made, I don't think very many people expected him to be in, right? It's one of those moves by Jason Light where, unlike that 2021 draft class, this Emeka Ibuka pick at 19 is kind of aging better by the day. As we come to find out, Jalen McMillan going to be missing a huge chunk of the season. We know Chris Godwin, his stat is still up in the air for early on in the season, but Ibuka is going to be getting some pretty good looks early on in the season, which is enough to get people excited. But my rookie of the year, man, on the defensive side of the ball is going to be Jacob Parrish. I think we've talked about it on the show before. We have seen it in camp. We have seen it in the preseason. The biggest thing that they needed to fix with this defense was getting hands on the football. And I think Jacob Parrish, having an actual cornerback to fill in that nickel spot, and this Todd Bowles defense, the fact that he's as versatile and as physical of a player as he is as well, gets me very excited about what he can do in this defense. I think that he is going to be the catalyst this year for maybe not more interceptions again, but more hands on the football, just more ball hawk behavior from this Buccaneers defense that has had it before and certainly has the talent. I mean, Zion McCollum in a contract year going to be trying to take the ball away as well. Jamel Dean, verdict still out. People can say whatever they want about Jamel Dean, but he is this team's corner as of right now. And then there's plenty of guys in that safety room. Hopefully a return to form for Antoine Winfield Jr., your guy, your defensive MVP. But I think Parrish is just going to be the source of a lot of plays for that secondary this season. I think that role is going to be very, very important as the year goes on.
Yeah, I think he's gonna, and look, they had Tyke Smith in that nickel role last year, played well. Came up in some big spots for the Bucs last year, and I think Jacob Parrish could do the same. He had a pretty good preseason, and I wasn't like when the pick was made, I wasn't like ecstatic over it. I didn't think it was a bad pick, but I was kind of like, yeah, okay. But also, I didn't love the idea that they had of taking Tyke Smith from nickel and putting him a strong safety.
Yeah.
I liked what he did at nickel. So I think if Jacob Parrish can come in as a rookie, and look, nickel corner is not easy in today's NFL, but it's a necessity in today's NFL because teams have 3-4 wide receivers that can go out there and get it done. So they're going to need a guy like Jacob Parrish to step up, and I think he definitely could. So I think if you're looking at the two rookie corners, I think Benjamin Morrison has the higher ceiling. Like, I think if Benjamin Morrison hits, you could be looking at like a really good corner. But I think immediate impact, I think Jacob Parrish is definitely going to be more of that guy for the Bucs than Morrison is.
I'm hopeful to see Benjamin Morrison work his way into this lineup. I wish we could have seen more of him throughout camp in the preseason. The lingering injury stuff always sucks, whether you're a rookie or not. We've seen it happen with plenty of players, but I hope to see him get into the lineup. Just youth in that secondary and guys who can come in here and potentially make plays are guys who can potentially stay here for a long time. Carlton Davis, I know they let him go a couple of years ago, but it felt like for a Buccaneers corner, he was here for a little while. Jamel Dean has been here for a little while. I'd be curious to look up a list and actually see like who the longest tenured cornerbacks are in Buccaneers history. just to kind of see where these guys fall on that list. But you hope that they can make enough plays here early on in their career to hopefully be a guy who gets paid. And again, Jason Light, the Buccaneers organization, proving to be an organization that pays its players, especially if they were drafted by the organization. What was it, that stat that came out? Something like 82.4%.
I think it's 82. It's one of, if not the highest in the NFL in terms of homegrown talent on the roster. Yeah.
Yeah, you love to see it. So, with all of that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I think we have covered just about everything that we set out to accomplish today. I have the Buccaneers in 2025 finishing 11-6 and winning the NFC South. Will they win a Super Bowl? I don't know, man. Do I think they can win a playoff game or two? Absolutely. I think that this is the best fit the Buccaneers have been for a playoff run in quite a while. And we don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but it really does feel like the elements are there. It feels like Todd Bowles has been head coach long enough now as well, where they can overcome some of the mistakes that they've had in previous seasons. They can look at the criticisms that they had headed into this past offseason. They can directly make the changes to fix them. It feels like things are coming together at the right time. So I think that if any Bucs team can make a playoff run over the last 5 years, this is certainly the one to do it. I mean, 2020, 2021, yeah. But if we're talking 22, 23, 24,
Sure.
now 25.
Of like the Todd Bowles era, you can say.
That's a good way of putting it. I think this is the most capable Todd Bowles team he has ever had, maybe in his coaching career. You could argue Tom Brady in 2022, but I think the mojo with that team, the roster on paper, yeah, the roster on paper was one thing, but the mojo just wasn't there. It feels like the Bucs have a lot of mojo coming into 2025.
Yeah, they definitely do, and I think I would agree that, and I don't put it up with 2020 and 2021. Like I know there's something that's like, there's some people are like, oh, on paper this could be the best Bucs team in a long time. I'm just like, when you compare them to those two teams, I'm not sure. But in terms of the Bowles era of, like you said, the last 3 seasons and then this one, I think you're looking at it. Yeah, this is the best roster. So, but also comes with the most expectations. So if those expectations aren't met, I'm curious to see, I know how the fan base is going to react to Todd Bowles, but I'm curious to see how the Buccaneers would react to Todd Bowles if those expectations aren't met, because higher expectations means bigger disappointment if those things aren't met. So it's going to be up to the Buccaneers now, right? I mean, look, we can predict all we want that they're going to win this game and lose this game, but it's completely up to them.
Football's back, my friend. It is the moment that we have all waited for. This is the point where people around the NFL, different fan bases, everybody starts chirping this time of year, and that's where half the fun is. But the other half of the fun is actually watching the product on the field and having actual football to talk about. So I cannot wait to get the 2025 season underway. The Eagles and the Micah Parsonless Cowboys going to be kicking us off next Thursday. The reigning defending Super Bowl champion Eagles, who, again, the Buccaneers are going to be playing in Week 4. It's going to be a fun season, man. I'm very excited. Keep it locked here on our YouTube channel, Cannon Fire Podcast, for more great Buccaneer news and content. You can also find us on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. All of those are Cannon Fire Podcast. Best place to go for updates on the show and, of course, Buccaneer news as it happens. Want to thank our live chat once again, everybody hanging out with us. It has been a long show. Typically our longest episode of the year, but everybody's been sticking it out. David Bartleson, Rolf Steinbauer, nice little bromance in the chat between those two guys. Hopefully you can figure it out. Our buddy Richard T from the West Coast. MK, Mikey Kelly, Steven Stansfield, EMC, Reckon as well. We appreciate you guys chiming in. Anybody else that I may have missed? Pat William, too. Got to get you in there last minute. Thank you guys for hanging out with us. You can follow my co-host Evan on Instagram at Bucks_Daily. You can also find him on Twitter at EvanNFL. Check out his written work. Sorry, it's been a long week. Check out his written work at BucksNation.com. What have you got for the people?
Yeah, so like I said, next week, I mean, we're, this Sunday is going to be a week until the Buccaneers are playing. So we got an entire slate of just Falcons prep basically for you guys, right? So stay tuned to BucksNation.com for all that good stuff leading up to the game, then obviously after the game, recapping it all. So not only there, but we appreciate you listening on audio if you are listening on wherever you can listen to a podcast. But if you do want a little bit more video content, we're filming this on Friday right now. So next week we'll be starting our basically season content, which if you guys have not experienced it yet, it's basically 3 videos and a couple shows a week. So we will figure it out. Most of the time, I think we have our schedules set. Week 1's a little bit wonky, especially with you have the holiday, and then you get right into sort of that week. So, but we're gonna have betting the Bucks, players to watch for the game. After the game, we're gonna have best and worst. Immediately following the game, we'll have our game recap show where you guys can call in. It's always interesting. Mikey, Richard, those guys always call. Then we have a few others that always like to call in as well. So feel free to join us for that. So we appreciate you listening on audio, but if you want a little bit more video, short form video content, check out the Cannon Fire Podcast YouTube channel.
Couldn't have said it better myself, my friend. Last but not least, you can find myself Instagram and Twitter at Retticus, RHETTAKUS. If you follow me, I will follow you back. But that's the show. We will see you guys in the next one as we keep you up to date on everything.
I want to
Tampa
hear
Bay.
cannons.
Whoa, played the wrong thing. We'll keep you up to date on everything Tampa Bay Buccaneers as we get ready for this Week 1 contest against the Falcons. Be on the lookout for that and more. I'm your host, Rhett, signing off from my co-host, Evan Wanish. We will see you in the next one. Until then, and as always, thank you for listening, and go Bucs.